Hello everyone, got 10 dirty jokes for you today. So in a train compartment, there are 3 men and a ravishing young girl. The 4 passengers join in conversation, which very soon turns to the erotic. Then, the young girl proposes, if each of you will give me $1, I will show you my legs. The men, charmed by this young girl, all pull a buck out of their wallet. And then the girl pulls up her dress a bit to show her legs. Then she says, if each of you gentlemen will give me $10, I'll show you my thighs. And men being what they are, they all pull out a $10 bill. The girl pulls up her dress all the way to her legs in full. Conversation continues, and the men, a bit excited, have all taken off their coats. Then the young girl says, if you will give me $100, I will show you where I was operated on for appendicitis. All 3 fork over the money. The girl then turned to the window and points outside at a building they're passing. See there in the distance. That's the hospital where I had it done. So a company, feeling it was time for a shakeup, hires a new CEO. This new boss is determined to rid the company of all slackers. On a tour of the facilities, the CEO notices a guy leaning on a wall. The room is full of workers and he wants to let them know he means business. The CEO walks up to the guy and asks, and how much money do you make a week? Undaunted, the young fellow looks at him and replies, I make $300 a week. Why? The CEO then hands the guy $300 in cash and screams, here's a week's pay. Now get out and don't come back. Feeling pretty good about his first firing, the CEO looks around the room and asks, does anyone want to tell me what that goof-off did here? With a sheepish grin, one of the other workers mutters, he's pizza delivery guy from Domino's. So a mechanic was removing a cylinder head from the engine of a Range Rover when he spotted a well-known heart surgeon in his shop. The surgeon was there waiting for the service manager to come take a look at his Mercedes when the mechanic shouted across the garage, hey doc, can I ask you a question? The surgeon, a bit surprised, walked over to where the mechanic was working on the Range Rover. The mechanic straightened up, wiped his hands on a rag and asked, so doc, look at this engine. I'd open its heart, take the valves out, repair any damage, and then put them back in, and when I finish, it works just like new. So how come I get such a small salary and you get the really big money, when you and I are doing basically the same work? The surgeon paused, smiled, and leaned over and whispered to the mechanic, try doing it with the engine running. So John's car broke down in the middle of a quiet road at night. He decided to hitchhike. After waiting for a while, a car stopped next to him. He jumped aboard. The speed of the car was slow and steady. Suddenly, John noticed to his shock that the driver's seat was empty. No one was driving the car. John was not frightened by the speed of the car, but by the fact that it had no driver. When the moment came, he jumped out of the car and ran for his life. After a few kilometers, John arrived at the gas station. He went inside and bought himself a drink. 2 men arrived at the gas station. One of them pointed at John and said, look, Jack, that's the idiot who jumped into our car while we were pushing it. So Bob found out he was going to inherit a fortune when his sickly father died, and he decided he needed a woman to enjoy it with. So one evening he went to a singles bar where he spotted the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her natural beauty took his breath away. I may look like just an ordinary man, he said as he walked up to her, but in just a week or 2 my father will die, and I'll inherit $20 million. Impressed, the woman went home with him that evening. 3 days later, she became his stepmother. One day a man went to an auction. While there, he bid on an exotic parrot. He really wanted this bird, so he got caught up in the bidding. He kept on bidding, but kept getting outbid, so he bid higher and higher and higher. Finally, after he bid way more than he intended, he won the bid. The price was high, but the fine bird was finally his. As he was paying for the parrot, he said to the auctioneer, "I sure hope this parrot can talk. I would hate to have paid this much for it, only to find out that he can't talk." "Don't worry," said the auctioneer, "he can talk." Who do you think kept bidding against you? So a woman recently lost her husband. She had him cremated and brought his ashes home. Picking up the urn that he was in, she poured him out on the counter. She started talking to him, and tracing her fingers in the ashes, she said, "You know that fur coat you promised me, Irving?" She answered by saying, "I bought it with the insurance money." She then said, "Irving, remember that new car you promised me?" She answered again saying, "Well, I bought it with the insurance money." Still tracing her finger in the ashes, she said, "Irving, remember that blow job I promised you?" Here it comes. So Al Gore and the Clintons are flying on Air Force One. Bill looks at Al, chuckles, and says, "You know, I could throw a $10,000 bill out the window right now and make one person very happy." Al shrugs his stiff shoulders and says, "Well, I could throw 10 $1,000 bills out the window and make 10 people very happy." Hillary tosses her perfectly sprayed hair and says, "Of course, then, I could throw 100 $100 bills out the window and make 100 people very happy." Chelsea rolls her eyes, looks at all of them, and says, "I could throw all of you out the window and make the whole country happy." So a man goes into a pet shop to buy a parrot. The shop owner points to 3 identical-looking parrots on a perch and says, "The parrot on the left costs $500. "Why does the parrot cost so much?" asks the man. The shop owner says, "Well, the parrot knows how to use a computer." The man then asks about the next parrot, to be told that this one costs $1,000 because it can do everything the other parrot can do, plus it knows how to use the Unix operating system. Naturally, the increasingly startled man asks about the third parrot, to be told that it costs $2,000. Needless to say, this begs the question, what can it do? To which the shop owner replies, "To be honest, I have never seen it do a thing, but the other 2 call him boss." So at the height of a political corruption trial, the prosecuting attorney attacked a witness. "Isn't it true," he bellowed, "that you accepted $5,000 to compromise this case?" The witness stared out the window, as though he hadn't heard the question. "Isn't it true that you accepted $5,000 to compromise this case?" The lawyer repeated. The witness still did not respond. Finally, the judge leaned over and said, "Sir, please answer the question." "Oh," the startled witness said, "I thought he was talking to you."